Hello and welcome to the University of Law. In today's video, we're here. I can't believe it. The time has flown. We're on the final instalment of Centaurans versus Rutans. This is a really exciting release because it's a War Doctor release. I love the Time War. I love the War Doctor. I'll talk more about this incredible artwork in a moment. But first of all, just to introduce the video. As with all of these videos, I'll be unboxing it, and as I kind of go through the packaging, I'll then start talking about my thoughts on the story, because while the packaging is really, enticing, and for those of us who collect these CDs, it's great to kind of look at the packaging and enjoy it. What's really important here is the meat. It's the disc inside, it's the story. Obviously, it's always important that we make sure we talk about the stories that we invest in. So let's get it open. So if I peel it open there. What I've really loved about this set of releases is that we have had them in singular discs, because it swings and roundabouts, doesn't it? I think certainly finding it hard to get this off now. Certainly the whole idea of the box set is great for so many reasons. As I've said on this channel before, the box sets are fantastic because obviously they save space on the shelf. Also, if you can have a story, this is really difficult this time. I'll get there, don't you worry. Here we go, got it. So yeah, first of all, it saves space on the shelf. It also means it's saving delivery space, which is good for the environment, because it's less deliveries. Which is great for the environment. Here we go, finally got it off. Yeah, so it means say you're doing a box set of 3 instead of 3 separate releases. It means that's less deliveries immediately because you're just doing it all at once, and also it's less space in a depot, so it's good big things get to have more stock in if they're slimmer. So the box sets are great. They're slimmer for the storing of them in the warehouse, slimmer for us to store, slimmer for the transport of them. And also it's great that you can kind of have a series all at once. You can binge it, which is how a lot of people experience their stories now. You could obviously have it all at once. So there's lots of benefits to it. It also keeps prices down, because if it's all in one, it's less plastic for a start, because it's just one case rather than 3. So there's lots of benefits, but on the experience side of things, so on the practical side, the box sets work better. On the experience, it is nice to have a story drip in installments. And the thing with the box set is, it's great to binge it, but actually I like things that you get to watch weekly, like Doctor Who, like the Star Trek and the Star Wars stuff, where you watch it weekly and you get that time to reflect and think and wait a week for it. And we've had that with this, and I really enjoyed that experience of just pausing and waiting and having to think and speculate, and having these videos where we speculate and talk about what's on there. And it builds up, and you get more. You remember it more because you might have a few re-listens, and it just extends the experience out more. So I guess the way around that could be that you release it as downloads first over several weeks, and then the box set comes at the end. Of course, that's not very useful for people who listen to it on CD only. So it is difficult to try and get the right balance, but they've certainly kind of reflected on that, because they are now also doing the Morbius, the Dark Gallifrey, is also now overlapping slightly, but that's carrying on, and they are done in like this in CD releases, so you kind of get that chance. I mean, we're not just getting, it's not just 4 episodes like this one was. This is going to be over several years, so that's quite an exciting one. Not every month for several years, but certainly for about half the year for several years. So this is called In Name Only. We've got a nice little blurb at the back, obviously a little cover art. It's featuring Jonathan Carley, obviously, as the War Doctor, Chris Ryan and Dan Starkey, who were obviously in the Sontaran Strategy, and David Tennant reprising Sontaran roles here. Directed by Ken Bentley. And we've got as well on the spine, we got In Name Only. Release 1.4. I'm guessing there's not going to be a series 2, but it's saying series 1 episode 4, and it's by John Dorney. So it's bringing the whole range together. So all the stories we've listened to are all coming together here. Now this is interesting. Look at that. Okay. I wasn't expecting that at all. Let's talk about that in a second. Let's talk about the implications of that in a second. So let's enjoy the front cover to start with. Now, what I love about this is I'm a massive War Doctor fan. And I was so excited when they started doing audio dramas with John Hurt. I said it in a previous video back in 2015 when they announced it. It's a surprise. My only disappointment was that I wanted to see a young War Doctor. That was always my hope. And of course we got that, and I couldn't be more thrilled with the War Doctor Begins and then the War Doctor Rises coming out soon. The only disappointment, slight disappointment, and I said it's very small disappointment, so very small, was that it was artwork rather than photograph, which obviously was going to have to be the case because there's, other than the photograph used at the end of Name of the Night of the Doctor, there's no photographic evidence of the young War Doctor. And yet here we have I'm sure that's a photograph. I'm sure that's taken from that same... Is it Crime and Punishment? The BBC drama that it's taken from? I'm sure it's taken from that same, which obviously would make sense because it's BBC property. But if not, if it's a really lifelike drawing or AI, it's very good. But it's nice to... First time since 2017 to have a photographic War Doctor cover. And there's lots going on here. So we've got Centauran ships in the background. We've got one of our Time Lord protagonists, who we'll talk about later. We've got the battered TARDIS from Day of the Doctor, the War Doctor's TARDIS. However, it's not looking as battered as it did. So I think whatever they've done, they've tidied it up a bit. So it's getting there, but it's not as battered as it's going to be. We've got some Centauran ships at the bottom. We've got Rutans, of course, looking very much like their new CGI form in the incredible new edition of Horror of Fang Rock. We've got Centaurans. We've got Gallifrey Under Siege. We've got Centauran ships from Centauran Strategy. We've obviously the Gallifrey is the Gallifrey we've kind of seen in the new series, and the end of I think this is an end of time Gallifrey, so not quite Under Siege as in Day of the Doctor, but a little bit before that. Yeah, but of course the most impressive thing is this, and of course what they've done is they've taken this looks to me like it's a John Hurt publicity picture. But they've kind of changed the ratio of it, so they've probably changed the size of it slightly, narrowed it a bit to kind of suit this younger War Doctor. And again, we've got kind of the hand, I'm sure that's John Hurt's hand and screwdriver there. So it's a lovely piece of composite work. Now, as with all of these, you always get a reversible cover with the era-specific logo on the back. Now, of course, the War Doctor didn't have an era-specific logo because he never had an era on television. Now, personally, I'd be inclined to give him the Eccleston logo because, to me, the Time War is very much what I think of. When I think of Time War, I think of, the Rusty Davies era. I think of, in particular, the kind of Doctor's theme from the first series of the original Rusty Davies run, and the reflection of the Ninth Doctor. So I would have put that. But actually what they've done is they have put the Matt Smith logo, which makes sense because he made his debut in the Matt Smith era, and it's got the Matt Smith font as well, which is really cool. And actually it fits, I guess, with the Engines of War audio book, which also has the 11th Doctor logo. And then inside we've got the same artwork again. We have got a cast list. We've got a photo of the cast. So there we have it. And obviously production credits. And here we have our disc. And beneath it, of course, an advert for the... Which ones are they now? They're not in order, actually. I think they're going backwards. It's the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th volumes of War Doctor Begins. So here we have it, the disc in all its glory, in name only. Look at that. Young War Doctor photograph on a disc. I'm easily pleased. But thank you, Big Finish, that's wonderful. So let's talk about the story then. So I don't want to give too many spoilers away in case you haven't listened to it, but this brings everything together really, really well. It's a little bit like time of the Doctor. That's the analogy I'll use, in that you have this whole sort of era of story arcs about River Song and the Silence and the TARDIS blowing up and the cracks in time. And you basically have an episode then, Time of the Doctor, one episode at the end of the whole era that basically has a normal episode in which you kind of then get little bits, oh, well, now this is going to trigger this in the past, and this is why that happened, this is why that happened. And it's very much like that, but, in an equally satisfying way, in that it's very much, here's an adventure, and actually, this adventure isn't a consequence of the previous 3 stories. It is the reason for the previous 3 stories. The other 3 stories are a consequence of this, which is a really clever twist. So when we say it all comes together, it actually all originates here. So we're coming back to the origin. So even though this is the latest Doctor to do it, and the last story for him chronologically, it's actually what creates everything. And there's some lovely callbacks, some lovely there's a Sontaran character who comes back from one of the earlier releases, but it explains everything. In fact, then there's a couple of Sontarans and a couple of Rutans actually that come back, and it explains the whole story about the fact that there's Rutans who appear to be Sontarans, Sontarans who appear to be Rutans. It all comes together, and I said it's really satisfying. Lots of twists along the way, especially with this Time Lord character here, and yeah, the Doctor himself, he still feels very doctory. Obviously, he's not calling himself the Doctor anymore. I'm guessing this is post Enemy Mine, so this is when he's really completely rejected the title of Doctor. I thought we might have seen a more darker War Doctor moving forward, but he does seem to still be quite doctory in the sense that he wants us Sontaran remembered. The only thing I would have really liked to have seen, which would be really interesting, is the Sontaran who helps him, who was in a previous story. Wouldn't it have been cool if it had been Strax, and it was a Strax origin story, and it ends with Strax then having to repay the debt, and that's where we then pick up in Goodman Goes to War. That would have been quite fun, especially seeing as Strax is commonly used in Big Finish with Paternoster Gang. I've listened to that, by the way, the new 4th Doctor set with the Paternoster Gang. That was fantastic, that cliffhanger. I'll talk about that more. That's already on its way in the post. I can't wait to get reviewing that for you. But yeah, no, so I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the whole experience of Sontarans versus Rutans. I enjoyed the whole episodic thing of it, and waiting a month and speculating and re-listening and all the clues. And it came together really nice. It was a really fun experience. So thank you all to Big Finish. It was a really fun experience to have. And you made me very, very happy by having the young War Doctor here photographed. And I hope we kind of see more photographic covers moving forward with the new War Doctor Rises sets. But I still love the card, the painted artwork, the oils, they're really good as well, but I do like a photographic cover. They're usually my preference. I like all the covers Big Finish do, but my preference is photographic. But what are your thoughts? What did you think of In Name Only? What did you think of the series in general? What are your thoughts on the War Doctor and his future at Big Finish? Let me know all of these things in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I look forward to speaking to you soon.